Do you love to shop? I love to shop. Like, do you shop while you're working, while you're eating, or even while listening to this podcast? Yeah, we all do it. We all know and love the thrill of the hunt. But are you getting the thrill of the best deals? Rakuten shoppers do, because they get the brands they love with the most savings and cash back. And you can get it too. Start getting cash back at your favorite stores like Nike, Bloomingdale's, and even Expedia if you're looking to travel. And you'll never miss out because you can even stack sales on top of your cash back. The idea is simple. Stores pay Rakuten for sending them shoppers, and Rakuten shares the money with you as cash back through PayPal or check. Rakuten is easy to use. Just download the free Rakuten app now and never miss a deal. Or go to Rakuten.com to start getting the most bang for your buck. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Happy shopping.
A bloodbath tonight in the rural town of Shinook.
Everyone here is hiding a secret.
4 more victims found scattered.
Some worse than others.
I came as fast as I could. I'm Deputy Ruth Vogel.
And soon, my quiet life will never be the same.
Realm presents a 30 Ninjas production, Shinook, starring Kelly Marie Tran and Sanaa Lathan. Listen to Shinook wherever you get your podcasts.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to chase demons and fight monsters.
Fighting a couple of angels, too.
And eventually save the world.
A bunch of times. Over 15 years, this series has built one of the most dedicated fan bases in all of entertainment, and that fan base is near and dear to our hearts.
That's right. I'm Rob Benedict. I played Chuck Shirley, a.k.a. God.
And you do a darn good job, too, buddy.
Aw, thanks.
Well, I'm Richard Spade Jr. I played Loki, the Trickster, and Gabriel, and I directed a bunch of episodes.
Wow, is that it?
Well, I directed you. I don't know. What do you think?
Though we worked on the show for years, we never sat down and watched the entire series.
But that was then, and this is now.
That's right. We are watching each episode and inviting the actors, the writers, producers, and crew to join us in digging into the story, the characters, and the mythology.
These guests share some fantastic behind-the-scenes stories with us. You're going to love those, and you're going to get our honest opinion about each and every episode. That's right. Those guests share some fantastic behind-the-scenes stories with us, and each episode gets a full, honest, and unfettered review from Rob and Rich. And you get to learn a little bit about how TV is made. Lord knows we have.
A warning, there are spoilers. And don't get frustrated that we haven't caught details for multiple viewings or that we know what happens 3 seasons from now. This is the first time we're watching these episodes. And you're there for the ride as we watch with our virgin eyes.
Oh, that's creepy. Thanks for joining us on our journey as we deepen our understanding about why you love this series so much.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Benedict.
And I'm Richard Spade Jr.
And we're talking about Season 5, Episode 18, Point of No Return.
That's right. We can't go backwards anymore, everybody. We will not be referencing any episodes that happened previously because we can no longer look in the rearview mirror. This right here, this is the point of no return.
We've come to the point.
Here we are, finally.
Point of no return. Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We don't get to say this enough except at the beginning of each podcast. Thank you for listening. It's so great to meet so many of you at the conventions and hear feedback about the podcast. We just got back from San Francisco. 2 weeks ago, we were in Seattle, and we met so many lovely podcast listeners, and we appreciate it.
I feel like the audience reaction to this podcast was huge in San Francisco. I even had one enthusiastic listener come up to the table and ask me to scream, "What's up, booty?"
I love that.
Which I did.
Yeah. So that's been real. That's been nice to see people in person.
And again, if you see us in person at a convention, and we hope we do see you, anything positive you have to say, anything that brings you joy in the convention, please come right up, say it to me. I'm all ears. And any complaints, any constructive criticism, Rob's your man. So just find Robbie. Anyway, thank you for listening and tell your friends.
All right, let's get into the point of no return. The episode opens with Zachariah sitting in a bar, drinking and complaining about work to another man at the bar. It was great to see our friend Kurt Fuller back.
Mr. Fuller.
Suddenly, the bar shakes. A powerful screeching is heard, and the eyes of the people in the bar burn out. You heard that right. Their eyes go to fire. Zachariah is being visited by a superior and given a second chance to convince Dean to be the vessel for Michael.
Did it strike you at all during that sequence, Robbie, that was actually you?
Yeah, that's what by the superior, I thought it was God. Yes, it did. It did strike me that
it is God, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, because he said my boss. I think his boss is God. So
why were people so surprised when I became an asshole in season 15? I'm an asshole back in season 5.
You were an asshole. Wait, I mean, I could have told him that, but you were an asshole from the get go. And also, your character is also an asshole.
Good stuff.
It's trippy because you're an angry beam of light. Like, you're really harsh.
And killing people.
Yeah, you don't care about the civilians.
Killing innocent people at the bar. Meanwhile, Dean packs his prized possessions and mails them to Bobby. Sam walks in, interrupting him. Dean has decided to be Michael's vessel. Castiel appears and transports them all to Bobby's. Bobby reminds Dean that he hasn't put a bullet in his own head because he promised Dean he wouldn't.
Because I promised you I wouldn't.
You see that bullet? Bobby doesn't want him to give up, but Dean sees no other way to stop Lucifer. Castiel has a vision of something big happening and disappears. Did you notice every time Castiel comes in and out of a scene, when he appears, papers go flying? Like
I didn't really put that together.
A couple papers fly past camera. Like, that's the clue.
That's hilarious.
Castiel appears in the middle of the woods. He's attacked by 2 angels who he quickly kills. Look at Misha with the really being an action star. He discovers the body of Adam Milligan. He takes Adam's body and returns.
Oh, right. Adam Milligan is Adam Winchester.
That's right.
So he didn't take his father's last name.
No, he took his mom's last name because he's not a dad.
I know. I mean, this show does not paint John Winchester in a great light.
It really doesn't. No.
I mean, he hooked up with some rando, had a child, bailed on that child, or although apparently took that kid to a baseball game, and didn't even give the kid his last name.
I know, but people still love him at
You're
conventions.
no Winchester. Well, when you're dreamy like JDM, let me tell you something. If that had been me, I'd be a national pariah. But
Yeah.
You get the chiseled good looks of a JDM, you can do those things.
But me?
Oh, forget it.
No way. So, he takes Adam's body and returns to Bobby's house. Adam has been resurrected to be Michael's vessel. Dean doesn't want Adam to suffer and make the sacrifice. He sneaks away and uses a crazy street preacher to contact the angels.
Nice.
That was surprising to me, that the crazy street preachers have the inside scoop.
Turns out they're not crazy.
Yeah. Castiel intercepts the message. He gives Dean a beat down for betraying him. I mean, he beats him down. Castiel.
Yeah, man. Nice to see.
Castiel has given up so much and betrayed heaven out of loyalty to Dean. And now I do get why. There was a couple things that happened in these episodes that I get why people think that there's a thing.
Why? Well, like what?
You know, people think that there's a thing between Castiel and Dean.
Yeah, the Dean and Castiel bromance or whatever that is.
Yeah. In these episodes, you're like, oh, I would put that in my fan cut.
Like what?
Just little things here and there. Is this the one where he puts him in they put him in the...
Lock him in a room.
Yeah. And he's like, why are you looking at me like that, Cass? Last time someone looked at me like that, they want him to hump me or whatever, and they winks at him.
Really?
Yeah. You see that?
I probably kind of saw it.
Everybody, Richard watches these on fast forward. So.
I watch them. I don't have your trained perceptive eye. I didn't pick up on that beat.
Right.
I didn't pick it up.
Anyway, he gives Dean a beat down for betraying him. Castiel has given up so much and betrayed heaven out of loyalty to Dean. Castiel returns Dean to Bobby's.
What else happened? You said there were a couple of things.
I'll tell you when we get there. But this time it is Adam who has snuck away to find Zachariah.
All right.
Who has promised to reunite Adam with his mother once Michael is done with him. Adam arrives at a warehouse in Van Nuys, California.
Home of porn.
Right, which houses the access to the Golden Room. That surprised me that the Golden Room was in Van Nuys, California this whole time.
Also, it struck me as odd that Golden Room also sounds like something from a porn.
Yeah. There, Zachariah reveals that Adam is bait to lure Dean there. Sam and Dean arrive, but 5 angels heavily guard access to the room. Castiel stabs the first one with an angel blade, then dispenses with the rest by carving an angel banishing sigil in his chest and banishing himself in the process. That was intense.
Yeah, a lot of banishing. And
Carved it in his chest like that guy that at Lollapalooza used to do.
Huh?
Remember that guy at Lollapalooza? The whole thing was that he like carved things in his chest and put a nail through his finger and people would be like, yeah. You remember that?
No,
guy?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
He was on like the second stage at Lollapalooza. It was a 90s thing.
Huh.
Sam and Dean access the room to try to save Adam, but Zachariah uses his power to make Adam and Sam painfully ill, coughing up blood.
Ugh.
The old blood from the mouth.
Yuck.
Dean gives up to Zachariah and asks him to call for Michael, but it's a double cross, and Dean stabs Zachariah through the face with a hidden angel blade.
What? How do you hide that angel blade? Seems a little hard to hide that angel blade. I mean, that jacket is a waist-cut jacket. It's not a long jacket. The sleeves are unforgiving. They're leather or whatever. I don't know, man. Like that thing came out of nowhere.
Yeah, right after Dean escapes that cell and he grabs a jacket, then he decides to grab a different jacket. Did you see that?
No.
You didn't see that because you didn't see the look and the wink or any of that stuff. Anyway, maybe that was when he decided I need a bigger jacket to hide the angel blade.
So is that part of the reason why you thought that maybe there was something between Castiel and Dean? Because Castiel stood there while Dean decided to go jacket off?
No. Sam and Dean are able to escape, but Adam gets trapped inside for Michael's arrival. On the road, the boys talk. Dean tells Sam he has changed his mind. Sam had faith in him and didn't want to disappoint him.
All right. What an episode.
Wow, that sounds like you didn't mean it.
So let's get into Rob and Rich ratings and review.
Yeah, I'm surprised you missed some of that stuff. But it's when Dean is trapped in that room downstairs, and he actually double crosses Castiel so he can get out of there, right?
Yeah.
He got the sigil in the locker or whatever, and
I think it's pronounced sigil, but yes.
And then he comes out of the room and he chooses his jacket. That was just like a little beat that I noticed. But yeah, there's a wink. He winks at him.
Huh.
And Castiel's looking at him all like, "Ugh." He's like, why are you looking at me like that, Cass?
That's trippy.
Last time someone looked at me like that, they wanted something.
Huh.
And he winks at him.
Well, let's just pull it apart, shall we?
I'm trying here. I'm trying.
I don't know. This one's a tough one for me, man. I thought it was boring.
Shocking.
I really did. And I know that this is one of those episodes. I can watch Kurt Fuller read from the phone book. I absolutely love everything he does. And the teaser was really strong. When you come into that bar scene and it's Kurt Fuller sitting there having a drink, moaning about life with the other guy, I thought that was awesome. I just did not love.
To you, this episode is just filler before Hammer of the Gods. You're like, let's get to me already.
It is. It's not Hammer of the Gods. It's filler between any episode. It's filler between any episode. It's basically a giant act one to something else. And it just felt like.
For you, it's Gabriel o'clock. Let's get to the meat of the.
I'll just wait until you want to talk about the show. You figured out they're gay. Now you're parading around like you're the prince of the land. Yeah, man. I just thought it was boring. I love Zachariah. I love the character Zachariah. I love Kurt Fuller. I love Jake Abel. Hell, I love Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles and Misha Collins. But I just felt like...
You love me?
And these are always episodes that I find boring when they are the big setup episodes. And I know they're essential because you're setting up a lot of stuff and there's something coming through it all. But I just found it slow and not as engaging as a lot of the episodes.
I think I kind of disagree with you. I didn't love it. It's not in my top 10 of all time, but I thought there was a lot happening. I think Jake Abel too, as well as Kurt Fuller. I think Kurt Fuller's amazing, and it's fun to see him play such an evil character because he's actually the funniest guy I know. I also think Jake Abel is just a great young actor. Well, young then, but I like him a lot too, and I believe him as their half brother. And I like the whole story that they give Adam is a really interesting one to play.
Yeah,
I think Castiel had some real kick-ass fight scenes. And the whole idea that this golden room that we've seen a few times that you think is up in heaven is actually right here on Earth, which again, to me, kind of sets up where the show eventually goes in terms of, I don't know, God kind of operating on Earth as well as other dimensions. And I don't know. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it.
That's fair. But I didn't hate it. It's not a ringing endorsement either.
Well, compared to your awful endorsement, it's just,
I just thought it was kind of boring.
My biggest complaint with it is that papers had to fly through the room every time Castiel showed up.
Tough for the props department.
I don't know. I liked a lot of it. And I kind of like the setup episodes because you're finding out a lot of stuff, And whether or not they knew what was going to happen to Adam when they first introduced him, I thought it was a really interesting plot point to bring him back.
Yeah.
Ultimately as just a lure. Yeah. And then then we're to assume that's how Adam becomes Michael. Michael's now in Adam, we think.
Yeah, he's stuck in that room.
Right.
That was a bummer. you getting your brother out, and the other brother
Yeah.
who's always been sort of ignored and left behind is like
I know.
2 steps back, and
I know.
there goes the door slam.
Yeah.
That stinks.
Yeah. And I guess that's it for Kurt Fuller.
That's such a bummer.
Yeah.
I mean, Kurt's so good in the show.
Yeah.
Maybe he comes back. I don't know, but I don't think so. And it's just so good in the show. He's so engaging.
Yeah.
His whole scene with Jake Abel, who's like, but the good news is you're the illegitimate half brother of the guy we really want. So
Yeah, totally.
that's something, right?
Totally. Yeah, and I didn't totally understand. Here's where I'm going to agree with you. The whole like the talk they have at the end, and that Dean basically says he was ready to give himself to Michael, but hell, you brought me there, so I don't want to let you down. It just didn't feel like a strong enough argument for why he decided not to basically kill himself and become Michael.
Right.
That was my biggest sort of criticism of this, besides the papers with Castiel. Yeah.
Paper seems like a small hurdle.
Yeah, that talk that they have at the car at the end, it just didn't feel like a strong argument. You're like, hey, you know what? I looked you in the eye and I thought, I don't want to let you down.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's where we're at. What kind of beard do you go first?
Well, I got to think about this now. The thing about it is, individual performances are really strong in this episode, as we were saying. Kurt Fuller, Jake Abel, Misha and his big fight scene and cutting in the sigil, and the Dean and Castiel fight scene. Some really great sequences.
Yes.
And anything with Kurt Fuller in it. I love them sitting there at the playground, like staring longingly at the toys.
I swear I
waiting for Mom to show up.
had I had a scene in that exact same playground in like season 11.
I think you did. That became like the Portal
Oh, really?
playground.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Robert, Steve, and Robert. All 4 of you. This is the time in the program where decisions have to be made and votes have to be cast.
Mm-hmm. And we're stuck for time. So
we're stuck for time. I'm going to give this review is going to be, it's going to get a reaction from Robert, and it's not pretty, but it's not meant to be pretty because I don't think the episode is pretty. I think there's issues.
Is it me?
Just like I think there's issues with this beard and the person who owns it. But I also think it's timely, and I think it's a snapshot of where we are today as a people and as a nation.
All right.
I am giving this episode a vice presidential nominee for the Republican Party, J.D. Vance.
Wow.
I'm giving it a J.D. Vance beard.
Wow. Topical.
Which is like, it's kind of controversial, kind of a okay beard, but there's a lot going on with that beard and attached to that beard that you wish were, different. But then again, that beard wrote Hillbilly Elegy, which is a great book, So there's a lot.
Wow.
There's a lot that goes with the beard. It's a confusing beard.
Wow.
It makes you think. Makes you question earlier opinions.
Right. This episode had a stance, and then it completely changed its mind.
Yeah. Exactly. And yet, this beard that seems to be like, well, it's going to think this way, but then you realize, does it?
Right.
And why doesn't it now?
Right.
Like you say, Dean changes his mind really easily. Well, J.D. Vance changed his mind seemingly rather easily too.
All right. I'll buy it. All right. I'm going to give it, because I liked it more than you did, but it's not like my favorite. I'm going to give it the Chris Evans beard. When Chris Evans grows a beard, it's a good looking beard because he's a good looking guy, but I'd rather have Chris Evans maybe with no beard. It's just like, ho hum. Oh yeah, it's Chris Evans with a beard.
Interesting. I'm looking it up.
He's still
to see
Captain
what that looks
America.
like.
He's still Captain America.
Chris Evans beard. Looking it up right now.
Mm-hmm. Just type in Chris Evans.
Okay.
He comes up with the beard.
All right.
It's a fine looking beard. I like Chris with no beard. Better, but it's a fine looking beard. It's a good looking beard.
Yeah, he's still handsome. I mean, he's still good looking. No two ways about that.
Yeah.
But you like a non-bearded Evans, and you kind of wish
it's not even.
So it left you wishing. You seeing Evans with a beard leaves you wanting, much like this episode.
It's just when I think about beards,
right?
Chris Evans's beard isn't in my top beards.
Right.
It's a fine beard, but it's not in my top beards.
I get it. That makes I see what you're doing there.
Yeah.
Do you prefer a non-bearded J.D. Vance?
I don't. I can't even imagine what his beard looks like. I haven't looked at his face enough.
I gotta say, if you're this episode, and you're listening to our podcast, if this episode grows ears and listens to our podcast, they're not gonna walk away feeling great about themselves.
No. Although Chris Evans is a great looking fella.
Yes, J.D. Vance
J.D. Vance is about to
political
be
rise has been the youngest or one of the youngest vice presidential nominations in the history of our country.
Yeah, author of a best-selling book.
He's a success story. Father of 3.
Yeah. So, well, there you go. That's our rating. It can only...
Our very controversial RRR for this week's episode 518, Point of No Return. This may be the point of no return for Rob and Rich when we get fired from...
Well, and like we always say, they can't all be Stapletons and Loggins, you know?
They cannot, and nor should they be. That would be a boring podcast to listen to. All right, let's move on then, because we have grand things to do in this episode that are far greater than just discussing the episode. We have an interview. That's right. Returning guest that we always love to hear from. He worked on all 15 seasons as the supervising sound editor on Supernatural. This man knows a lot of stuff that we do not know, and every time we interview him, we learn, and I'm excited to have him back. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Michael Leay.
We got Michael Leay here. Michael, hi.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Great.
Thank you for being with us again.
Yeah, great to see you
My
again.
pleasure. It's my pleasure. So this is just so much fun because I went back through the time machine in my head on this episode. So it was like, oh yeah, it was really really cool.
We do force you to go back a bit, don't we?
A little bit, but that's all good. That's okay.
Yeah, about 14 years ago, this one.
Yeah.
So... Do you remember? It was the 100th episode,
right?
And so, do you remember that as a specific thing? Did the LA Post team celebrate?
Yeah. Did you guys go over to Simsies and tear it up, or
before that even existed? Yeah, I think we did have a in-office thing, and we did go over to. Actually, it might have actually been there, but before it was that, I forget the name of the restaurant because that was like 2 ago.
What about the Smokehouse? Come on, the Smokehouse is a legendary joint.
Now Jeremy and Bob and others didn't have that kind of money to do all that. Well, maybe personally, but not for the show. No, it was cool because Jeremy wrote it and Phil Segresha directed it. So it was so really we had a lot of input directly on things that they wanted and things they didn't want, which was really hugely helpful.
Well, like what? Like you say what they want, but what did they not want? What pitfalls were they trying to avoid?
Well, Phil wanted there to be breath in it. So it's rather than having some things you think you might want more sound in, he kind of wanted, can we pare it down so we hear just what is really in front of you, so the world itself kind of sucks down and then you just hear what's important in the room. So like in the opening scene, if we could start about that, in the opening scene, we're in a bar with 2 people. We don't really know who they are. We're talking and we hear like there's bar and there's jukebox music and there's outside trucks going by. And then it gets tighter. Suddenly you just hear the jukebox and the 2 of them talking. And then you have the God and angel tones coming in and Zachariah looks up and goes, oh, that's my boss.
Yeah.
So that was different so that we could get it focused because even the way it's shot is like, medium wide, tighter. So it's just following the picture down in with sound as well.
Well, you bring up the sound of the divine, as you're calling it. I like to call it the Rob Benedict screech since I think it's probably God. But, and believe me, if I had a nickel. But anyway, that sound is, I want to talk about that because that's a hard sound to do, not just how you ever designed it. But as a viewer, we're almost having the same reaction as the people. Like, it gets loud, man. Right. Like, it gets piercing. And so you're like, oh, you're almost fumbling for the remote just in time for it to go away. You know what I mean?
Very true.
How do you find that balance, both in the tone of the sound and in the volume of the sound?
That's a really good point because we have to broadcast limits, no matter what they are, and even digitally, have a finite limit. So we can only tickle it, we want to come back just a little bit, because if you're right up at the edge, like an AM broadcast or an FM broadcast, it's going to clamp down on it. Same with television. So we have to make sure it's not too loud, but it has to feel loud, right? Like you're saying. So we did a lot of discussion early on when we did the first one, way back when Castiel first comes through and we hear that voice. Is, people are saying, like, it's feedback. It's those things that you want to pull headphones off or hear anything like that. But it also has to still have a sense of movement, but not very up and down in pitch, so that it's a wide sound, but not have it pitch vary too much, because it'll feel less loud. So I actually have a little bit here, if I can play it, which is from that opening. I'll play it to you guys over the phone, and then we can talk about it. Cool? So here's the very opening with just the sound effects and screams.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Dude, it's so good. And it's exactly what I'm
So
talking
cool.
about. Like, I was not watching it in surround sound. I was watching it on a TV. So
Sure.
TV has built-in speakers that are pretty decent, but not other people have really nice systems. That would be a bone-rattling sound. So another nerd question. How do you modify a sound when you know that some people are going to get that signal through I'm not going to go to iPad because that's not how this was designed back in the day, but standard TV speakers versus deluxe systems. You know what I mean?
Right. You try and monitor it, at least I do, and anyone else who's been around for a bit, on several different pairs of speakers so you can flip. So you can kind of go, okay, here's what it sounds like on 3-inch wide, almost like speakers you'd have in a car from the 70s. And then what it would sound like on full theatrical, the stage itself, and then folding it down. How does it sound? Every once in a while, we'll actually go down and say, let's hear what it sounds like in mono, so that we make sure the stereo information isn't lost when you combine the two channels. So we might actually do 3 quick listens to a very specific sound to make sure it's working.
Were headphones ever part of that process, or is that too early on back then?
No, we did. I mean, headphones for building it might happen, but it really, you want it visceral, and headphones are great in the head. But if you wanted to have it, like you said, shake into your chest, that's not gonna get it for you. You know, you want it to be enveloping. So you've got pieces in that sound itself. We spent a good week. How about this? How about this? How about this? Way back in the time of what that is, back and forth, and sending over a clip of audio in, demos, basically. Let's do a couple of demos of what that would sound like. And then it's like, that's it. This is now part of our library. This is what we're going to use for that tone itself. And then it's what's around it that really gives you the rattle. Like underneath that, we're in a bar. So you've got wood and you've got bottles. And I'll play a tiny bit of that for you real quick because I'm being a geek myself. Ready? Here we go.
No, we love it.
So that you hear the rattle, you hear the you have a rumble, and then you also have a sense of low end movement, like almost like in a weird way, like you put your head right next to the bed as you're changing the sheets to kind of, or like a sail.
Right.
Hey there, this is Richard Spate Jr., and I hope you're enjoying the episode, but we need to pull over for a few seconds for some messages.
As a podcast network, our focus is bringing you shows you love to listen to. But we also sell merch related to those shows. And partnering with Shopify has made that both possible and simple for us to do. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor adventures, Shopify helps you sell everywhere because they've got you covered, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. What's so fantastic about Shopify is how, no matter how big you want to grow, they provide everything you need to get control of your business so you can take it to the next level. Businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/realm.
Welcome to the small town of Shinook, where faith runs deep and secrets run deeper. In this new thriller, religion and crime collide when a gruesome murder rocks the isolated Montana community. Everyone is quick to point their fingers at a drug-addicted teenager, but local deputy Ruth Vogel isn't convinced. She suspects connections to a powerful religious group. Enter federal agent V.B. Lauro, who has been investigating a local church for possible criminal activity. The pair form an unlikely partnership to catch the killer, unearthing secrets that leave Ruth torn between her duty to the law, her religious convictions, and her very own family. But something more sinister than murder is afoot, and someone is watching Ruth. Shinook, starring Kelly Marie Tran and Sanaa Lathan. Listen to Shinook wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening. Now back to the episode.
Where do you get that? Where do you get that sound from, the rumble, rumble, rumble? Is that just in your file of sounds that you have?
That and making the sound, like layering it. So,
Right,
I mean,
right.
kind of like layering a chord, because that's the way, I mean, that's the way most of us who were on the show had some music background, or at least music in schools, you know, so that they went, okay, right. So we kind of would like to make that. I mean, we won't get as geeky as saying, okay, I'd really like it to be a major triad chord or a minor fifth or something, unless I'm talking to Jay or the
Sure.
composer, at
Yeah.
which point it's like, I'm
Yeah.
saying, okay, I hear where you are. And that's one of the things we always did when we could. There's no music in that scene except for needle drop source. And so there's no score coming in. So it's just the sound effects and the world of that, so that everything can move and we're not dependent upon any one thing. Later on in the show, Jay's score on this is awesome, because we always have talked, since I've known him for 30 years almost, about, I'll leave you this part open. Hey, leave me a little bit of room for the glass. So don't use like high bright cymbal or something like that, or don't use guitar. But, you know, low med is yours because it's outside of dialogue, is, you know, I would say to Jay. And he says, great, we'll do that. Or we'll have a discussion about percussion. It's like, a lot of these are somebody running through a room and things going like this on it. And, you know, and then it's like, stay percussion. We'll stay out of your realm. We'll have a solid tone. And Jay provides the movement and the emotional impact through percussion, strings, hits, and things that are easier to do linearly and we're following the exact sync, you know, of the other thing.
And I just want to interject here for people listening that you're referring to Jay Gruska, the composer.
Correct.
And I think that's interesting, because I don't know if even veterans of the business like Rob and myself would know that there was such an intimate dialogue between you and the composer.
Totally.
Yeah, whenever we can. I mean, even when you're doing the podcast, you're having a discussion of what you want, you know, to a certain point, and what the breath should be and things like that. So we'll have that discussion. So we always spent, well, pretty close to double real time, even if we were smashing through the show pretty quickly and saying, here, we want to do this, kind of follow the temp, what we've done, because they had spent a week or more working on the temp music score. And Jay goes, okay, I feel the tone of it, but I think it should be like this. Same with these temp effects. They kept grabbing, and did all the way to the end. They were grabbing sound effects from the masters of the show, you know, the individual, you know, here's the sound effects stem, and putting it in onto their picture from episode 5 forward. So by the time we're here in episode 100, they had a pretty good library in the picture editorial of things they wanted. So they could go through and say, the angel tone. So they'd steal it out of this scene. This scene was pulled sound effects and then dropped in all the way down in episode 240 or more, you know, just kind of like, here it is. We'll do pieces of that, because that's the longest tone sound we had with a rumble. So if we're in the right place, it worked for them. Or they.
Well, let me ask you this: I assume it's not married to the rumble, right? So the tone is its own sound.
Correct.
I don't know if this scenario ever happened, but say somebody's like, "Oh, we're going to use that tone, but we need it significantly longer."
Yep.
How do you elongate something that's already been recorded to a specific length?
Our sound effects editor, Mark Meyer, he had them all in library form by themselves, so that you'd have that sound, and then you can either loop it or stretch it. But or if it's a tone that was created, if you're smart, you create longer than you think you're ever going to need. You know, it's like, okay. Here's a minute and a half. It's like a minute and a half. You go crazy. You go, I can't listen to that long. And then you cut it down, or you decide, okay, it's going to start this way as an arc and drop off, and you just layer it and do editorial on it to make it shorter, smoother. You know, spread the two out, because you're working so iconically with a library, even at this point on Supernatural. There are things you want to stay the same. You always want the sound of the angel blade to sound the same when it comes out. So that becomes a sound effect rather than Foley, because Foley can do the movement, but we want it to ring a specific way when it comes out for a certain metal sound, or the power of things going on in a knife fight, which I can play for you and for that, in fact, for a second, if you want to hear it. Here's a little bit.
Yep.
So here's an angel.
So that's the Castiel fight in the outside the golden
Exactly
room
right.
in Van
Exactly
Nuys.
right.
Okay,
That's so cool, by the way. Just
because you
hearing
can hear the reverb of the room they're fighting.
You're
in, too.
good. Yeah, exactly. So that you have a sense of
Right.
place as well as what time.
As opposed to the fight that Castiel has out in the woods,
which would be
Different.
drier.
Right.
And you'd hear footsteps in it, maybe if you had the Foley track, 'cause you'd hear the dirt and things like that on it. But in some cases, it's the feet and things like that we would actually pull back because it's really about what's closer on camera. We don't really care to hear scuffle, scuffle, scuffle. That would be for the foreign, maybe, as we had said another time in a broadcast, so that you make sure the feet are there when you're dubbing the show into alternate languages, because the original production track won't be there. So that movement that you have just normally in clothes, grabs, breaths aren't going to be there.
Right. I love it. I love it so much.
I do too.
You know?
So I want to piggyback on a question Rob asked earlier
Sure.
about the angel tone, because I think that's such a quintessentially supernatural sound. Taking out the rattle, taking out the room, taking out everything else, just the sound itself, the tone of the angel, the shriek. What is it? Like, how many layers is it? Like, what
What are we actually hearing?
Yeah, what
there?
comprises that sound?
Oh, you're asking me to unravel something. But
yes,
there's probably, in building that sound in the first place, there's somewhere between 16 and 20 and 30 individual tracks and sounds playing simultaneously and then combining down into groups that are workable, because you can't hand that much information to a sound effects mixer and say, here, go ahead, sort it out. It's just not fair.
Right.
So you might break it out like you're doing overdubs in music or in voice, where you have, okay, here's the percussion, and now it's down to just 4 tracks that was recorded as 16, or here's just the tone and then the undertones, because it's not just a 1K tone playing or something like that. It's multiple layers so that you have a chord and it's dissonant. So that we might layer, here's part A, B, C, D. So maybe there's 4 or 5 to that. Then we put in a distortion filter on it so that it doesn't sound clean. And then you say, okay, here's the angel tone, and that might be 4 tracks. So you don't have to just hurt yourself on it. So you can vary it a little bit in speed. So probably I would say a good 16 tracks went into making that original sound, not including the rumble or anything else like that, just that tone.
Just that tone.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must be really fun too, to come up with stuff from the fantasy world, that has no real world reference. You have to make that up. What is, like even the sound of Castiel teleporting,
Good point.
A whoosh or whatever that is, you have to start from scratch, go, okay, what was that?
Right. And we also had discussions, because when we first did it, it was like, oh, we want to hear angel wings. It's like, okay, so flap, flap, flap. We did that by itself. It was like, okay, that feels weird, because I mean, if you think about it, because you guys were in so many episodes and about the appears and disappears when you're shooting. Rob, if your character is supposed to disappear, you do a lockdown second, and then you could step out so they have a clean frame afterwards, right? Imagine having something just not there. Sometimes it's cool to hear nothing, because then it's like, it's even more surprising than, the I Dream of Jeannie Pachoink, is something disappears.
Yeah.
That's the first thing they said is like, not that. It's like, it's one of the coolest sounds, because that's super iconic. And
right.
So when your character as Trickster would snap his fingers, and when you snap fingers, that gives you a percussion point. And then if you have nothing afterwards, it's quite interesting. You just ring off that finger snap.
Right.
But for Castiel, he never did the fancy disappear. He just wasn't there. And so they had to make something. So we did a low end whoosh sound that might have been really organic, like a big cloth shake, and then add in a flap, as if like half of a flap, like maybe it's a wing, maybe it's not, if you listen really closely.
Right. I find that fascinating, and I think people who don't work in sound, and I mean even those of us who work in the business but don't work in sound, don't understand how, you think, oh, well, it's an angel screaming, so go to find some shriek, or it's a car crash, find the car crash sound. It's countless tracks of elements. It's layers upon layers, because when we really hear, it's like color, right?
Right.
You think blue is blue until you go to a paint store, and then you realize that there's an infinite number of shades of blue.
Right. As well as, is it a warm blue or a cool blue? So you have to kind of think in that term too. I mean,
right.
To be,
and there's warm sounds and cold
exactly.
sounds. Like, you know,
Western culture and Eastern culture, or Northern hemisphere and Southern hemisphere, you get into that too, is like what's considered to be a frightening sound to people in Korea and Japan is not the same as what it might be in Northern Alaska native folk.
Interesting.
You know,
you have a lot of, but how do you reconcile that though? If you're making a show for global, you obviously have to pick a lane. How do you pick a lane?
Well, the one thing that's good on Supernatural, you can pick a lane by if there is a surprise character in the show, like a Loki type character could be in the if it's in the show. Would you try and incorporate something like we did a little bit of maybe like a blown horn? So you might think, oh, maybe it's a Viking thing, maybe it's not, or is the thunder behind it, or things like that. Adding a layer on top of it and giving a little nod to another culture. I mean, early on, some episodes that were supposedly in the Pacific Northwest and things like that, developing the language of the space that they're in is as important as anything else. Yeah.
The when you're doing the sound for a room like the Golden Room, where Zachariah is always torturing the guys, where do you start? Because it's not, you don't even, like, you're talking all about regional location, but all that goes out the window if it's a completely made up, ethereal, we don't know where the hell it is space.
Right. So that's a good point. So what we did was we don't want to give a clue that there's anything outside that room. So everything you hear in it is slightly heightened, and the room itself, we gave it a hum or a sing kind of behind it. So this would be, I can actually play a tiny bit of that. So here's the beautiful room that's just you might say just the power or the dwell that's in the room that isn't realistic. But we played it really low, so you have almost a wind in it and also still a rumble and a tone all at the same time. So it's like, in a weird way, like maybe you were in a glider, but with a little mechanical on it. So I'll play that for you real quick, okay?
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying, though? It's got a rumble,
a
tone, and a sense of movement. So then when you play it,
and a sense of an outside, there's space to it, too.
Even though the room itself you're looking in is like maybe 30 by 30, that could be 200 feet or 200 yards, could be any size. And so we're trying to trick ourselves. So we have the good reveal at the end of it when the room is just a little, is that really a room, or is that just, it doesn't matter because you're bending time and space at the end into the perception of where would you want to be to eat a whole plate of hamburgers. I don't know. Maybe maybe Zachariah says it should be pretty, but I'm not so sure that Adam thinks that's necessary. He's fine with the stack of gotta eat a burgers.
Yeah. It says to me, in my mind, it says that there's this universe outside too. There, you know what I mean? It's this sense of like space, like literally up in space, like this infinite space, and
that's a perfect way of talking about it, because that's the way it was discussed when we were spotting it. That was the way Jeremy had it actually in his notes occasionally, and the way Phil talked about it, and the way Bob talked about it, about let's make it, even if it looks small or big, make it feel like maybe there's something way the heck out there. Are there corridors that go off of this thing? Is it a spaceship traveling through? We don't know, because we shouldn't know. We just know that it's bigger than it looks.
Yeah.
That there's something else out there. As opposed to in the basement itself, where we're keeping Dean so he can't get out. The basement has a different sound. There's a practical fan on the ceiling, and to be able to see that, through lighting, you see the blades turning. They kept the fan itself as quiet as possible so it didn't impinge on the scene. But we built really specific sounds for that.
So this is the safe room.
Yeah, the safe room. So the safe room downstairs has a fan in it that we used over and over again, but we built it slightly differently for this episode because we were in that room quite a bit. So the fan speed, we took what is actually a fan whoosh and slowed it way down. So here's a little bit of it coming here. This is... But we wanted it to have more of a hit. So we added a cloth, like as if you grabbed a piece of cloth and popped it and pulled it like a towel snap, only a little bit thicker. So here's that sound on top of it.
Oh, wow.
That's so cool.
So then putting the two together, it gives you a compression, right, and a release, right? Because the whoosh is like whoom, whoom, but the pop is like thump. It's like something walking at you. It's one, it's like step, step, step. So here's the two together.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's cool. So I'm going to play it really low as we're talking. So as if we're in the scene. Okay. So I'm going to make it quieter and quieter. So now it's really low as we're talking, and it just gives you a sense of tension.
It does. I feel like Rob's gonna snap.
Rich, why'd you lock me in this?
Robbie, calm down. Robbie, put down that microphone.
And then then to give ourselves space, as it were, as soon as the action goes up or Castiel is in, just to give us sonic space, we got rid of the fan. So that when action is like happening in the room, there's no reason to play woof, woof, woof when they're tossing each other back and forth and the doors are opening things. We just got rid of it or dropped it down to nothing. Even though it might still be there, it's not the focus, and it's not that sound that just kind of keeps you pounded down from the top of the head.
Then at this point in the episode too, there's this moment where Castiel's coming in, is outside the green, so you have an off-camera sound. Castiel hears the sound of a crash inside the panic room, then goes in to check on Dean. That's another thing too, right? Where your plot points are being told through sound, right? There's, he hears a crash, so something's happening in there. Right. Can you speak on that? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So on that, you want to make sure that all of our minds know what an closed door sounds like. It has a certain type of muffle, a certain type of reverb, but some of it is what's bouncing off the wall behind you and some of what's coming through the door itself. So that's what's hard sometimes. I had a teacher forever ago who once said the worst thing that ever happened to the business and the best is they went from having one microphone to lots of microphones, because you had one point of view and this is it. Everybody stands around that one point and you're good. Like being on a stage. Everybody's watching whatever they're watching at that moment. But when you have multiple microphones, your brain starts going, oh, well, there's an ambience behind you. So once we started going into a 5-1 mix, you really want to hear that reflection of that sound behind you as well, or filling that space. But you also want to make sure the sounds coming through the door are tight. So like if you put your hands around a microphone, it's a very tight sound. When you have your hands around, it's not. Like when we did before, last time I did the pilot, we talked about proximity. So the closer you get to the microphone, you get a deeper and deeper sound to a certain extent. And as you back off, it comes through. The same is true with cup it. You want it to sound like that. So we might describe it to each other that way when we're spotting the sound. I want it to be like you're talking into a cup. All right, cool. That gives me a place in my head of what to look for as you're making it. So like you said, here's that basement, the safe room, and Castiel coming in and then getting jumped out by Dean, who's written the sigil on the door. Okay. So at the very, very, very top of that clip, you're outside the door, and then you hear the door open and the sound of it changes. You hear that wider sound inside the room and a little bit of the fan. And then you hear, I guess it was like a locker that he put his hand, that he came behind, Dean puts his hand on the blood sigil like that, and then jumps, which has a really quick poppy crack kind of sound of metal. And then the transition of him leaving. When Castiel leaves, there's no angel tone because he's not talking anymore. He's just being pulled out. So we hear the voice, like we talked about before, is on the top, and the transition sound is smaller because it's all, for first time in a long time, Castiel's hurt. That hurt him to move. We decided, and the way that Misha played it, it hurt a lot.
It's interesting to hear the you hear weight, not weight, mass in the door, in the steel door and all that. Like, it's so interesting.
And that's
how
all
sound,
you.
Yeah, that's all sound.
That's all
man.
you. And the fact that this scene in particular is in a soundstage. So there's no difference for the sound outside the door, inside the door. You create all of that.
Correct. And so you have to follow, you can choose to follow or not follow the cuts. We try and follow the cuts. So we're inside, outside, but not so much that it's distracting. Enough that you feel it and you feel that it's right. But I think there are some movies when they were first really doing, oh, look, things are behind you, things are in front of you, things are behind you. It's like, stop. because it's just like, but we're looking at two people talking in a room. That's not important.
Right.
You know, I mean, even though I love the movie series desperately, I think I told you guys once, like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, that was the first one I really noticed. It's like, there's a window in the background, it's raining, and now I hear it behind Indiana, then I hear it behind his dad, then I hear behind, it's like, stop. It's moving around the space. And when they re-released it in Blu-ray, it's not like
they fixed it.
It's a little bit less. It's not just, it's over here. It's over there. Now it's like, okay, everything's a little smoother, because over time, everybody realized it never plays the same way in, as you said, speaker-wise, it doesn't play the same way in the giant Dolby Theater as it does at your house. So you have to kind of average it.
Right.
And that's what's hard. That's actually a really hard thing to keep in your mind is, okay, what is the average sound going to be, and what's the worst case scenario?
Yeah. And build from there. Yeah, sure.
Right, and build from there. Because I mean, sometimes we've all had people who say, no, I want to listen to the way it's going to sound with my earbuds in. It's like, oh, please don't, because that's a lowest common denominator, and letting the electronics of your transfer system dictate what the sound's going to be. It's like, check it, great, but that's just like, yep, sounds pretty good. The separation sounds good, but I
gotta tell you, dude, this is never not fascinating talking to you about this stuff. It's just I find sound design so fascinating. I think it's the unsung hero of any production.
And of all of our guests, we have some great guests on this podcast, but Micah, you're one of my favorites. Not only do you have a great microphone, which no one has,
and a DJ voice.
There you go.
But you have these examples that we can actually listen to.
They're so great.
And show
it's so great.
Your work.
Sure.
You're an artist, and we really, really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. You guys are fun, and you make me think outside the box too when we're even going to have a talk.
Well, and I'll say something too, just for people to hear. It's fascinating how sound dependent Supernatural is. And I don't think if you're just an avid watcher, you think of that until we have a conversation with you. And then you walk away, or whatever, however you get away from a podcast when you're done, you go, oh my gosh, so much of what I loved about that episode was done by Mike and his team. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. If I can leave you with one more sound before we leave real quick, as you were asking about the Angel Blade and what we were doing with it. We added one thing in it, which I think all you guys would like. And this is just before Castiel is with the other angels who have a blade in their hand. And you see a couple shots crossing back and forth in front of each other before the fight starts. You see one doing almost like a gunfighter does the whip of the blade around. So we didn't know what we wanted to do. And Mark Meyer, our sound effects editor, said, why don't we make it sing? It's like, what a cool idea. So this is what it's actually the sound of a tuning fork, but that's not what your mind says when you see the blade going. So this is a tuning fork passing by a microphone. And here's my cheat of one of the things that we did on the show. So here you go.
That's brilliant.
So it's in your mind of having a ring of what it is, but it also is like when you play it low and just on the as he's moving it around, you go,
yeah,
that was cool. What
so
was that
cool.
that just went by?
So cool, man.
Truly.
Thank you for everything you bring to the table, knowledge and sound effects wise. Your to Rob's point, your examples really tell the story, especially because this is an audible medium. So it's a great tool.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And thank you guys. And your podcast is sounding great and doing great. And let's do more because, I hear there's a few more episodes to do as we go along.
Yeah. Just one or two.
We're just at 100 now.
Yeah.
Out of 326.
I know. Oh, and you guys know the door in the background of the scene in the hotel has 100 on it.
Yeah.
It was room 100. Yeah, which is like, you got
to do those. You got to do those things, right?
You got it. Well, great talking to you.
We'll see you again.
Let's all.
Yes, God willing,
that.
or Rob willing.
God willing.
Lovely.
Thanks, Mike.
All
right, Michael. Thank you so much.
Hey, this is Jeffrey Dean Morgan. We are going to take a quick break.
The Moth podcast shares incredible true stories told live And for our next episode, we're visiting space.
And all of us here today, even tonight, we're on this spaceship Earth, amongst all the chaos of the universe, whipping around the sun.
Stories about space travel, science, and wonder. The episode's available right now. Subscribe to the Moth podcast to make sure you hear it.
Hey, it's Jeffrey D. Morgan again. Welcome back to the podcast.
Well, that was great. Always love hearing from Michael Leay, and he's...
What can I say about our interview with Michael Leay, except for it was great?
What an intelligent guy. He really knows his stuff.
Oh, dude, he's so intelligent. He's so on it and quick-witted and has a radio announcer voice.
Yeah.
Like he should be doing commercials and we should quit.
Totally.
It's awesome having him here. I'm glad he was here. And I'm glad to tell you, Rob, this little tidbit. Do you know that we're doing something completely different right now?
What?
I know you're on pins and needles waiting for mythology. Well, you just have to sit on those pins and needles a little longer until your thighs bleed, because we're doing a sequence called Supernatural Refresh.
Ooh, I like the new theme song.
Yeah, it's not just Supernatural Fresh, which it is. It's Supernatural Refresh.
That's right. Well, this episode contains mythology we've reviewed before, so we're going to take this time to do a little refresh.
Refresh.
We are exactly 100 episodes in, and that's a lot of material, so let's refresh our memories.
Refresh.
Of what has happened so far as we head into the finale. Today, we are reviewing all the times Sam and Dean have died so far.
Ba-dum-bum-bum. All the time Sam and Dean have bit the dust and they are gone. We're gonna discuss it in the Supernatural Refresh.
All right. All Hell Breaks Loose, Season 2, Episode 22. It's the end of Season 2, and Sam is fighting the other special children. Sam gets stabbed and dies. Dean makes a deal with a Crossroads demon to resurrect him, and Dean has 1 year to live.
Mystery Spot, Season 3, Episode 11. Sam and Dean get trapped in a time loop by the Trickster.
Played by Richard Spade Jr.
American sweetheart, Richard Spade Jr. Stunned by the Trickster's overt sexuality and manhood, Sam must witness the death of Dean every day, over 100 times. Dean, smitten by the Trickster himself, doesn't mind the pain because it gets him closer to the demigod he so admires. The Trickster, in his tight pants, was trying to teach Sam that he will never be able to save his brother and that he should accept fate.
No Rest for the Wicked, Season 3, Episode 16. It's the end of Season 3. The brothers are unable to reverse Dean's contract with the Crossroads demon in exchange for saving Sam's life at the end of Season 2, and Dean gets mauled by hellhounds and goes to hell.
Yikes! Wishful Thinking, Season 4, Episode 8. The Magic Coin episode, where a woman wishes Sam dead to protect her love with her boyfriend. Dean eventually convinces the guy to do the right thing, and the wishes get reversed.
The song remains the same. Season 5, Episode 13. Sam and Dean go back in time to try and save their parents. Sam gets stabbed by the angel Anna and dies. The archangel Michael shows up in John as his vessel and resurrects him.
Dark Side of the Moon, Season 5, Episode 16. Sam and Dean get shot by fellow hunters and go to heaven, where they relive memories, learn more about their differences, and get a message that God isn't interested in helping anymore.
Well, that's it so far. I'm sure there will be more, and we look forward to seeing all their future deaths. And I have to say, as the first time I've watched this series, I had no idea they died so much.
They die a lot.
I knew they died maybe a couple times. I had no idea it was as much. There's, turns out there's a lot I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you don't watch the show.
Yeah.
And this is why we are
That's right.
constantly confused.
That's right. And hey, it's time for fun facts.
Fun facts, fun facts, fun facts.
Point of No Return is a song from the rock group Kansas.
How long? How long to the point of no return?
Yeah, Kansas, big contributor to music of this show.
Absolutely. The show's house band, if you will.
Yeah. In Season 4, Episode 17, It's a Terrible Life, Dean tells Zachariah, angel or not, I will stab you in your face. In this episode, guess what? He follows through with that promise.
Oh, man. Typos. You love them. Well, you get them here, because when the CW first put out the official summary of the episode, Supernatural was spelled Supette Natural.
Todd Scott, Jensen Ackles' stunt double, portrays the second angel that attacks Castiel in the woods where he finds Adam. Huh.
And those are indeed fun facts. Robert, what an episode. What a day. What a confrontation.
What a year. What a life. You know, I like that last fun fact. I'm always interested in the stunt guys or crew guys will pop up in the show.
Yeah.
And, it made me think we're going to have one of the stunt doubles on at some point.
Absolutely. Oh, man, for sure.
It'd be fun, too, to have like one of the stand-ins, you know?
Yeah, agreed.
At any rate, controversial podcast, controversial episode.
Controversial review.
Rich did not like it. I liked it fine, but...
liked it fine. Still not great.
I still think season 5 has been a home run, and I'm very eager as we build towards the end. Now, I have a couple questions.
Oh, hit me.
When do we meet Sebastian Roche as Balthazar?
Ooh, good question. I don't know.
When do we meet Julian Richings as Death?
Ooh, Robert firing question after question. I don't know.
Robert firing question after question that I don't know the answer to.
I am in the dark.
All right, well, we'll see. We'll see. Those are my questions, and we will see.
To be discovered, Robert, to be discovered. In the meantime, everybody, keep listening, please. Keep listening to our podcast, because you're not going to know those answers either unless you listen to the podcast and or already know the answers. But either way, don't you want to be there when Rob learns the answers? I do, and I will be. Join us, won't you? We'll see you next week.
See ya. This episode of Supernatural features Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester, Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester, and Misha Collins as Castiel.
Guest stars include Jim Beaver, Kurt Fuller, Jake Abel, and Michael Robinson.
Point of No Return was written by Jeremy Carver and directed by our very own Phil Segresha.
Editing by Nicole Bayer, music by Jay Gruska.
Executive produced by Eric Kripke and Robert Singer.
The original broadcast of this episode featured the following songs: The Man Upstairs by K Star.
This episode originally aired on April 15th, 2010.
Tax Day.
Hey, by the way, we got some really good Phil Segresha shots in here, too. Close-up of eyelids opening, things like that. I really like.
Never does Phil disappoint as a director.
No.
Never, never, never. And the Carver-Segresha pairing.
Yeah.
I mean, those are two of the best teaming up. And yet, the beard rating was...
Yeah, couldn't satisfy old Spade Jr.
Nope.
This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Spade Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Hada Holscher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty.
Oh, what's up? Betty!
Music provided by Tim Wynn.
The episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at SPN Then and Now.
And become a member of the podcast at www.patreon.com/SPN Then and Now. I just found an ant on my desk. When there's one ant, that means there's others.
That means there's a bunch of uncles running around.
You got Steve on that one. That old joke, new to Steve. And Rich has been doing that one for years. Boy. Sam and Dean go back in time to Trey and save their parents.
Thank God Trey Booty was there to help save their parents.
Story Mill Media.
Welcome to the small town of Shinook, where faith runs deep and secrets run deeper. In this new thriller, religion and crime collide when a gruesome murder rocks the isolated Montana community. Everyone is quick to point their fingers at a drug-addicted teenager, but local deputy Ruth Vogel isn't convinced. She suspects connections to a powerful religious group. Enter federal agent V.B. Laureau, who has been investigating a local church for possible criminal activity. The pair form an unlikely partnership to catch the killer, unearthing secrets that leave Ruth torn between her duty to the law, her religious convictions, and her very own family. But something more sinister than murder is afoot, and someone is watching Ruth.
Shinook, starring Kelly Marie Tran and Sanaa Lathan. Listen to Shinook wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a co-founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. During her journey, Isla meets new friends, including King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and learns valuable life lessons with every quest, sword fight, and dragon ride. Positive and uplifting stories remind us all about the importance of kindness, friendship, honesty, and positivity. Join me and an all-star cast of actors including Liam Neeson, Emily Blunt, Kristen Bell, Chris Hemsworth, among many others, in welcoming the Search for the Silver Lining podcast to the Go Kid Go network by listening today. Look for the Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.